The makeup artist, and here is the dandy. So,
Now go. No.
give me a mic, I tell you everything.
Yes, you know the drill. This is your third Bodinale. Or second, third.
Third, I think.
You did the first, the third one, and the fifth, I think, if I remember. Tell us.
Tell what. So basically, I spent 3 years working on this film. Just so you know, it wasn't exactly a walk in the park or Ponyhof or anything. And yeah, I'm pretty glad with the result. I always feel a bit like having smoked a big joint after watching it, which is good. And there's a makeup artist up on stage, Joey from Neukölln. Yeah, we scraped together all talent and fantasies we had. And I mean, yeah, I wrote the script, I directed, I produced, I did the editing, color correction, and yeah, I mean, I'm have to do almost everything, and that project almost killed me, but I think it was basically worth the trip. My influences are Alejandro Jodorowsky, Kenneth Anger, and maybe some films by Rob Zombie, I don't know. But I really, after shooting a few documentaries, I was a bit tired of always being people's therapist, you know. No, but I had the feeling like in documentaries, you always, as a director, you circle around the people and you stick with reality and the facts and what happened. And as I come from an art school background, I always felt like at some point I really want to squeeze all these weird, bizarre fantasies I have and try to visualize them. And sometimes it was easier than I thought, sometimes it was way harder also to find the cast, but I did succeed. So any questions or comments too? And you can also, I don't have to talk all the time, you can also ask Johanna or the dandy what they think.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah? Go for it.
I don't want to. Well, I want to ask about the ending, and in the theater. And you don't have to give away like the full like interpretation on it, but I'm just curious. The ending.
So the question is
the intention of the last scene.
okay. The
question was in the film.
Yeah, the question was how can the interpretation about the final scene of her in the theater.
Basically, the idea was that everybody has their own version, but if you want a hint on what's going on, then I would say that in the end, if you consider life like a trip and the destination is yourself, then you find yourself always alone, right? I mean, there's nowhere else to go. Like you will, if you go through changes and whatever happens to you, but at some point you will fall back to your own self, and that's like, so I would say it's in the open. Like I didn't want her to be like, you know, and that's why I think I pick on some things that might fit with the horror genre, but then that's too simplistic for me because there's always good and evil, and I think all these things are part of yourself, and like darkness, brightness, whatever you might call it, like as they say a few times, pleasure and pain. And in the end also, she's none of the selves she got offered. She's something, you know, again, a different version, and it's all in the open what she does with like what she went through. Does that help?
I think there's one quote, I'm not sure who says that line, but there's one quote in the film. One person says, there's not just one, but a variety of personalities. Might be that explains it all, because no one will give you the answer to that. It's all about the girl becoming more grown up, more connected to the other layers of herself. So choose yourself.
Exactly. So, Angela, do you want to talk a bit about how it was working on the film?
Oh, so I think it changed my life a little bit. And yeah, it's true. It's very true. And I'm very proud to be a part of this movie. And I think it was a very, very good time of my life. And I always take it on my heart. And I met so many nice people, and it opened my own world. So I can only say thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, finding the cast was one of the basic things to make this work. And then I found Nikolai, who has the exact, this old English kind of thing accent, which I wanted, like for these quotes. Like everybody's in their own different world in this film. But the hardest part, believe me, was to find someone who is able to act and is ready to do what we wanted to do, but doesn't have tattoos or like piercings, or is like super freaky at the first sight, but is still open. And that was the hardest part. And that's why I'm so glad. The moment I had her, I made a few tests, you know. And then like slowly, we would totally spoil her. Bring more outfits and like, yeah, you can do it, go for it. Like, no, it's fine, we won't tell your mother. So, more questions?
Yeah, mine. Sorry, putting you back in the therapist chair for a moment. My question is, what advice
Don't
would
see
you?
you anyway.
What advice would you give to someone who is like the lead role, girl or boy, at the start when she's fresh?
How do you mean in general?
Yeah,
Like not in my film, just in general.
from the story of the film perspective.
Didn't get that. Did you get it? I didn't get the question, I'm sorry.
What advice would you give a
To
person?
her.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, well, I prepared her that we will see her tits. After I met one actress, I was almost collaborating with, we were talking about several things, and then like, well, I have to spit that out, like, because otherwise they're gone. And it's like, so, are you okay to show tits?
Yeah, I'm okay.
To keep it simple. Yeah, I mean, I have a reputation. I like shooting erotics. Like, I mean, you can see that, but I'm not necessarily into the porn genre, but I definitely like to create my own, like, sexual or whatever I call it, fantasies. And I always like movies that play with that, but not necessarily, it shouldn't be too, you know, totally graphic or whatever. I think that's more of a turn off, but I definitely was clear from the beginning that the film would deal with all sorts of sexual and fetish fantasies, and so it's of no use if someone's not open for that. So that was definitely like the sensitive point of collaborating to that. I mean, and I cannot also, what is really important, I work with a lot of people, all the extras in the film, I think you can see that, and I think you also know some of them, they do what they wanted to do. So we would meet, it wasn't like, you do this, you do that. Like, they brought their own outfits and they had ideas, and I would just, I wanted everybody to feel comfortable and also to contribute in a sense. And I think that's why the party scenes, and at least I think so, worked out pretty well. So I have this paradox going on of like having a strong vision, but still wanting people to feel good with what they're doing, because, yeah, also in other film you cannot offer people more than a good time. Don't forget about that. Like, I mean, none of us was paid. I mean, I put all my work and money in that, and that's how underground film goes. And luckily in Berlin still, like, the locations were super welcoming. Like, I mean, the makeup artists, everybody around it, like, was feeling like they're part of something, and it's mostly fun, you know. So. More questions?
The costumes pre-existed or were they created for the films, some of them? Like the priestess costume.
Oh, the costumes come from different artists, and they partly existed, but they were also created, like a mix. I would kind of, they come from the guy who also got the slide. They come from the guy who does the suspension, for example, with the glass balls, like in the disco scene. She did the horns, and but they're all like they're all single pieces, you know. There's nothing that is fabricated. They were all like custom made by people, and they were like kind enough to let us use them mostly and give them back in good shape, right? So, and as they were also part of the film, yeah, it would all work out. Like we would all throw things together and make it look as if we had a huge costume department.
Well, at the end you did.
Yeah. It was a lot of people, a lot of styling.
Yeah.
It was a lot of people, a lot of styling to do. It was very intense work, I can say for myself as one of the many makeup artists you had on the team. But it was inspiring to see so strong women believing in her project. Yes. And making me challenge my new level of stress, and I definitely experienced that very well. But it's lovely to see finally the result and to see you all again.
It's actually cool. We have a real conversation. It's cool. We have a real conversation, but I don't want to stretch this out forever. So. I mean, feel free to ask more. I will for sure stick around at the bar, and yeah, I don't know. It's really great that it seems to work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you have a question, we have no hurry.
Okay.
Up to you guys. But, how many shooting days did you have?
Okay, now they want to know the details. I also want to know how many people worked in it.
You've seen the credits. I forgot about it.
What is it, 200?
Yeah, around like, I mean, but not at the same time. I guess around 200 people or 150, including all the people who helped technically in the post-production and the musicians and soundtrack composer. And we had 17 shooting days, which is not so much. Like in a row, we would shoot in blocks. So the shooting period went from April to September 2015, October. And so, yeah, it was always like, okay, we got the location, then there's 1 or 2 days of shooting, and then we don't see each other for a while. And the hard part was also to tell people, like, keep your hair color, keep that haircut. No, don't change, just for like that period, like that we have a continuity.
I can imagine for some people it's almost impossible.
And what was also hard, that's an interesting episode, we had like the mistress who is not here today, you know, she's a performance artist. She's in that sense not a professional actress. Before we had a professional actress who was dying to play the part, but well, she was a bit too sensitive for the project. So I mean, I told everyone that we would work with real blood, real suspension, no fake, because that's what Louis Fleischauer does. Like, and then 2 days prior to the suspension scene, she would make a huge fuss to me on the phone that that's not the way she's working, and people could die, and it's way too dangerous, and whatever. Like, she made a really huge scene, like, and then I had 24 hours to organize a new actress, because we had the fucking Kit Kat Club, and you know how difficult it is to get Kit Kat Club for 2 days in a row as a.
I can imagine.
And I mean, we had the best we had the best conditions from them because I drank some glasses with them and whatever you need to do there. And it's possible, like you just have whatever. And he was like, no, I can't cancel that. Like you have the suspension scene, you have the Kit Kat Club ready. And so within 24 hours, she popped up and she's a friend of the girl with the glass balls. And she was like, I told you from the beginning I can do it. Like, didn't you check Facebook? Yeah, and then there she was. It was really like, yeah, you know, playroom scene, you know? Can do it. All right, yeah, that's I don't know, that's the drama and the gift and the pleasure of underground filmmaking. I had serious, never was that close to real panic attack like in that days, but also I had a really, really freaking fucking good time.
There's another question. Otherwise,
And I want more of those.
Julia Ostertag, you can
juicy
find
episodes.
you can find their website. You can find probably her other works around,
Yeah.
and you can get involved in this cyclone of energy.
Yeah, and the insanity. There's new project ahead.
And
But also both short films at the moment, like or one short film.
okay, well, whatever comes next, we will be here, and hopefully you will share it with us. If you don't become too underground for us. We thank you a lot, and it was such a pleasure. Guys, Julia Ostertag, and the Dark Circus. So now the program is done. We have a tiny small surprise for those that don't have to run away.